Good afternoon, everyone. In the following slides, I will share with you which are the main elements and the content of LSME. So we can start with the general overview of the LSME. Yes, as you can see from the picture in these slides, there are several articles in the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive that define the scope and the content of the listed SMEs ESRSs. As Chiara has already pointed out, the purpose of the LSME is to ensure the public accountability and to support the availability of the ESG information of listed SMEs. Next slide, please. One of the key articles of the CSRD related to the LSME is the Article 1986, which specified the content of the LSME. As you can see, a brief description of the undertaking's business model and strategy, description of undertaking policies in relation to sustainability matters, the principal, actual, or potential adverse impacts and risk, the principal risk, and the key indicators. This article also, as Chiara mentioned, defined the undertaking in scope of the CSRD, of the LSME, which are the SMEs with security listed, small and complex banks, and captive insurance and reinsurance. The articles which are important for the LSME are Article 19A, which underline the fact that LSME is only for individual basis, reporting on individual basis. Article 29C, which establishes the principle of proportionality. So LSME shall be proportionate and relevant to the scale and complexity of the activities and the capacities of small and medium-sized undertakings. Other articles are, from next slide, please. Yes, Article 29B, which defines the list of sustainability subject matter that LSME should take into account across ESG. And Article 29B, point 5, which says that LSME shall, to the greatest extent possible, take account of the work of global standard setting initiatives, the information that financial market participants need, and the EU taxonomy and other regulation. Next slide, please. To allow a structured approach to simplify Set 1 ESRS for large undertaking in line with the CSRD, the EFRAG tag and board followed a decision tree, as you can see from the picture in this slide, to make decisions on the disclosure requirement included in Set 1 to be kept also in the LSME exposure draft. And those the arts that could be amended or simplified. As you can see from the graph, the evaluation elements in this decision tree are reporting area listed in CSRD, Article 19A6 and 29C. These are the specific CSRD articles addressing LSMEs. The arts mandated by EU laws, such as SFDR, benchmark, Pillar 3, EU taxonomy data points, and disclosure corresponding to data points in Set 1 that require coverage of value chain dimension for the implementation of the value chain cap in the ESRS LSME. In this step, the priority has been to assess whether the data point is needed in order to meet the specific need of users of the LSME standard. In relation to the alignment with the IFRS, there was an explicit choice in the CSRD to not cover financial opportunities. Considering this important deviation and trying to pursue alignment on other points would be disproportionate and would impair the possibility to further simplify the standard without any concrete benefits. So based on that, the legislature has made a conscious decision to prioritize simplification over alignment with the ISSB IFRS. Next slide, please. As you can see from this graph, the exposure draft reflects a simplified structure. The content of the 12 ESRS in set 1 has been rearranged in one standalone standard with 6 sections. 3 cross-cutting sections, section 1 general requirements, section 2 general disclosure, and section 3 policies, action, and targets. We have also 3 topical sections dedicated to metrics, section 4 environment, section 5 social, and section 6 business conduct. Those are the key simplifications applied in LSME compared to set 1. As mentioned before, we have a voluntary nature of positive impacts and opportunities due to the fact that they are not explicitly covered in CSRD, in the article of CSRD dedicated to the listed SMEs standard. We have a so-called report if you have approach for targets, due diligence, stakeholder engagement, process to engage with affected stakeholders, and process to remediate negative impacts and channels. As mentioned in the previous slide, we have a simplified structure for the standard, and we have more voluntary disclosure requirements in the LSME compared to set 1. So we changed it from shall to may. Now I'm going to share with you which are the main simplification applied to for each section, starting from section 1, which is compared with the ESRS 1 for the ESRS for large undertaking. For the materiality, we apply the same approach as in set 1, and also and we added an application requirement to better specify how an undertaking shall assess impact and risk in its value chain. As mentioned before, opportunities and positive impacts are on voluntary basis. For the value chain and estimating using sector average and proxies, we added a DR in order to better specify that an LSME can rely on information contained in sustainability statement of actor in its value chain. And we added also another application requirement to clarify the use of proxies and sector data when there is a large number of actors in the value chain. In relation to presenting comparative information and reporting errors per period, it is not required when it is not possible with reasonable effort. In set 1, we have instead when impractical. For the disclosure requirements related to source of estimation and the outcome uncertainty, we have simplified criteria to be considered when judging if possible future event is material. In the DR related to updating disclosure about events after the end of the reporting period, we have also introduced the report if possible with reasonable effort, and we have eliminated the requirements to disclose effect of events after the end of the reporting period. For the requirement related to classified and sensitive information, we introduce an option to omit information in exceptional cases for impeding development or matter in the course of negotiation. In relation to reporting undertaking and value chain, we expanded the approach to associate and joint venture also to include subsidiaries, and we added an illustration in application requirement to explain the approach to impact metrics for subsidiary, associates, and joint ventures. For the principal connectivity, we simplified the language and we streamlined the guidance. For the policies, we introduce an example in the application requirement, which is the meaning of not formalized policies. And in relation to reporting on an individual basis, as I told you before, the LSME is only for individual reporting. For the phase-in transition, we have the same phase-in as in set 1, extended to the undertaking in scope of SRMEs that will not choose to opt out or that cannot opt out for the first 2 years. And we adjusted the threshold to 50 employees. We included also 4 additional phase-ins compared to set 1. In relation to section 2, as you can see, we have simplified the DR related to the presentations of BP1 and BP2, and we reduce also the granularity. In Gov1, we reduced the granularity and simplified. We kept only the EU data points, and we included, after some input from the board, also Gov2, in particular points C and D. We have not included Gov3 and Gov5 in LSME due to the fact that there were not an explicit content of the articles related to LSME. In relation to SBM1, instead of the revenue breakdown, we asked to disclose the list of significant ESRS sectors. For SBM3, we reduced the granularity. We deleted the reference to resilience, to the resilience of this undertaking strategy. For IRO1, we incorporated all the content related to IRO1, from the topical standard in a summarized way in this section, decentralized section. Next slide, please. In section 3, we have centralized the disclosure requirement related to policies, action, and target. From the topical ESRS, we centralized all the disclosure requirement in this section. We have maintained the content of the minimum disclosure requirement related to policies and action, and the same also for we reduce the number of data points of the minimum disclosure requirement related to target. As I told you before, targets are one of the report if you have component. In this section, we have also centralized the process for engaging and process to remediate. In section 4, we have related to the environment, we have streamlined the objective, and we in this section, in all the topical section, we have only the metrics. In particular, in section 4, we have transition plan, report if you have component, and the other requirements has been deleted. In relation to energy consumption and mix, we have simplified and reduced the granularity and of the breakdowns. In relation to energy intensity based on net revenue, we have the same content as in set 1, and we made a simplification regarding the reconciliation, and we have an additional 1-year phase-in. For scope, the GHG emission, we have simplified the content, reduced the breakdown, and added, if applicable, principle in EU emission trade scheme and on the market-based methods. For the GHG intensity based on net revenue, we have the same content as in set 1 due to the fact that this is an SFDR data points. We simplified the reconciliation, and we added also an additional 1-year phase-in. And we added also a specification for small non-complex institution on GHG intensity per net revenue. On GHG removals and mitigation, we reduced the granularity and we simplified the content. We deleted the reference to the contribution to removals in upstream and downstream value chain. And we deleted the plans to cancel carbon credits in future and methodology of residual emission near to net zero. We deleted the DR related to internal carbon pricing compared to set 1, and in relation to anticipated financial effect, we simplified. So we kept only the EU data points, and we merged physical and transition risk in one single data point. Also for this DR, we simplified the reconciliation with the financial statement. Next slide, please. Continuing on section 4 on the environment, for the requirement related to pollution, air, water, soil, we have the same content as in set 1, plus a new application requirements, which will help undertakings to better understand the content of this DR. For the E2, we have the same content of ESRS set 1. For water consumption, we have the same content of ESRS set 1 due to the fact that there are data points stemming from the SFDR regulation. And we have also, for this also in this case, we have also included a specification for the small non-complex institution on water intensity ratio, the same application requirements that we have also for the JG intensity. On biodiversity transition plan, we deleted compared to set 1. For biodiversity impact metrics, we reduced the granularity. For land use life cycle assessment, we have the same content of ESRS set 1. In relation to invasive alien species, we decided to keep the disclosure. In relation to resource inflows, we significantly reduced and simplified the DR. In relation to resource outflows, we kept only the Euro data points, and we simplified and reduced the granularity. In relation to financial effect on all the other environmental topics, so pollution, water, biodiversity, etc., we kept only one DR for all, and the undertaking can get to specify the content for each topic supported by this centralized disclosure requirement. On the social section 5, we have, as we had done for section 4, we have simplified and reduced the granularity. We replaced the threshold of 50 employees and more than 10% of the total employees with only 10%. So for the threshold, we refer only to the 10% of the total employees for the undertaking. For the characteristic of employees, we have the same content of set 1, but simplified and with reduced granularity. Same for the characteristic of non-employees. And for the collective bargaining coverage and social dialogue, we have the same content of set 1, but simplified and reduced the granularity. And we deleted the reference to social dialogue. On adequate wages, we have the same content of set 1, and we included the threshold for disclosing country, the main country information. And we deleted all to clarify that it is subject to materiality assessment. On social protection, we have same content. We have simplified the content of set 1, and we made we changed 2 data points from shall to may. So we made them voluntary. On training and skill development metrics, we have simplified the content and reduced the granularity. We added a new phase-in for gender breakdown, and for health and safety metrics, we have the same content of set 1, but we kept only the SFDR indicators. Next slide, please. On remuneration matrix, we have simplified the content by deleting data points on contextual information, and we kept the SFDR data points. On incident complaints and severe human rights impacts, we have reduced the granularity and changed the reconciliation with the financial statement. and focus on incident and severe human rights impacts. Also for this DR, FACIN was added compared to set 1. On diversity matrix and person with disabilities, we merged these two DRs, and the breakdown by gender for percentage of employees has been deleted. On work-life balance matrix, we changed to a voluntary disclosure. In relation to the last section, section 6 on business conduct, we merged the content of G1.2 and G1.6 in G1, and we simplified also and reduced the granularity. And we merged also the content of G1.3 and G1.4 from ESRS G1, and we simplified the content. We added also, if any, on specific DRs regarding the anti-corruption and anti-bribery and political influence and lobbying activities. Next slide, please. As Chiara mentioned during at the beginning of this meeting, we have estimated, as you can see from this table, we have estimated a reduction of almost 50% of data points compared to set 1. If we take into consideration the data points dropped from set 1 and the ones that are simplified as report if you have and if applicable. As you can see in the table, we have also 81 data points changed from shall to may. I think this is the last slide on LSME. Yes.